Morning, everybody. Welcome to my channel. 8:20 a.m. December 17th. Everybody's having a good morning. Now, the Fed's just talking about AI, how it's going to affect the labor market, pull them back a little bit, pull them back, honestly, right now, ES futures into last week's lows. Okay. So, very whippy market yesterday. Very, very whippy. I mean, that thing went down, went up, went down, went up. The one thing that changed yesterday was tech was the leader. Remember, I was talking about that yesterday, saying that I want to see a day where tech's the leader. Okay? So that happened yesterday. Okay? Now, I did express that in a start of a starter position, and it was holding. It was holding. And then I literally got, I think, stopped out by like 4 points or something like that, because I knew that around 68.25 was a high volume node, composite node from the past, and I said in my channel that I said that needs the, if that we find price acceptance below that, that is very bearish. There's a very poor structure below that, but we held it. I did put another long on. That long would still be in profit, but I just didn't trust the market, because once I saw Microsoft broke out of 475, Nvidia broke the 177s, I was like, okay, maybe we can start moving. And that got rejected very quickly. And I said, you know what? I might have to wait. It's rollover, quad witching this Friday. I might have to wait. Even though the better long was probably the Nasdaq, because it's relatively stronger. So right now, that's a nice little pullback that's happening. Okay. Nasdaq kind of broke a downtrend yesterday. Okay, so let's see what happens today. Now, I noticed, maybe I'm crazy, but the economic calendar has changed. We're not getting CPI today. I'm pretty sure that I'm not going nuts that it was supposed to be today. And more retail sales numbers. It was very ugly, all the stuff that was going on. Now there's not CPI. It's tomorrow. So, that's what's going on there. So Fed's speaking now, and all of us, like I said, the Fed said he doesn't know how AI is going to affect the labor market. So you're getting a little bit of selling. All right. What else is going on? I'm trying to think what I saw. Metals. Silver's on a tear. Silver's on a tear. That's just another one that I should have added to that position. I have a nice position, I think in the 20s. Maybe I'm lying about that. Am I lying about that? Let me see here. It doesn't matter. I'm pretty sure it's in the 20s. So I pretty much almost tripled my position or something like that. But I should have. Man, I should have added. It's okay. You're going to probably hear me whine about that a little more. All right, so that brings us to today. All right, that brings us to today. Oh, what I was talking about, that swing position I had. That was my starter. So I got stopped out break even. I said, you know what? I'm not going to sit here and watch, even though, like I said, it'd still be good. Um, Quad witching, gotta wait for that. All right, let's get right into things. Welcome to my channel. My name is Steven Gonzalez. I use market profile and volume profile to find structure in the markets. Low and gamma exposure levels, the most traded price of the week. I'm not sure if I said supply and demand. And that's the way I just messed up that. I've switched it up and your brain just goes, I usually go into autopilot there. So, market profile and volume profile, supply and demand, gamma exposure levels, the most traded price of the year, the month, the week, and the previous day. That is my edge. I also use Anchor Viewouts, market internals, and Bookmap, and my trusty expected move indicator for the week. The weekly expected move. 70% of stocks close within those ranges. Close within those ranges. Okay? You can get that free on my Discord. Now, every morning I do this. I give you the market story, the economic calendar, the market news, the leaders and the laggards, just why the market's doing what it's doing. We have a push-pull in this market. Very clearly, we have a push-pull. Okay? Very clearly. I went over the sector breakdown yesterday and just showed you what the market's been doing. Tech was selling off. Discretionary was having a nice move. Communications was balancing. Like healthcare was pulled back. Now was getting, pulled back more yesterday actually. So that's what's going on. I try to give it to you every day. Technical analysis followed by the long and short trade scenarios in the Nasdaq and ES futures. If you're a top step trader, yesterday was down. I had so I just traded my personal account yesterday. So had some nice scalps, but yeah. So whoever is involved in Top Step, that was pretty much down. I saw the charts, but you weren't able to place a trade. I did notice that I got a free reset, so I guess they made good on that. And next thing you want to do, want in-depth coverage, you're going to go to my Influence Trading, my Discord. Okay, go to the YouTube homepage, click on the link, sign up. What are you waiting for? Let me be your indicator. All right. Now these internals are really, really, really been driving me. That's my bread and butter. We'll go over that in a sec. Every day they basically tell me, all right, we're not going to go down that much. It's just that's why I'm putting these starter positions on, because I know we're on the precipice. Possibly that's the bottom. SPY hit the 50-day moving average yesterday. Okay. And putting some nice excess in. Okay. And this morning, right now this ES is battling the 50-day moving average. The QQQ is battling the 50-day moving average. We're underneath the 50 in futures, Nasdaq futures, so that's what's going on. All right. Now, let's get right into the futures watch list here. And let's see what's moving markets. Let's see what's moving markets. Oh boy. Fed Waller just said there's no rush to cut interest rates given the outlook. Interesting. All right, trying to keep you guys up to date. Look at my silver. My God. Up 4.18%. Almost up to $66. Silver. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. I remember I bought that maybe 4 or 5 years ago. It was like $17. Interesting. Crude finally catching a bid, up 1.83%. Gold up 0.66. 10-year yield up 0.41. Russell's up 0.41. Dollar's up 0.35. Nasdaq is up 0.26. Dow's up 0.26. ES up 0.24. 30-year bonds being sold, down 0.19. Bitcoin just can't get out of its way, 87. So 93, 94,000 was resistance, 87. That's a high volume node from the past that I spoke about. Okay, maybe we'll check those charts out. Ethereum down 0.83, and the VIX is down 0.85. Okay, we're at a 16 VIX. Moving on to the Max 7 Plus here. Netflix catching a bid. Now Netflix, I just saw that Warner Brothers rejected the Paramount Skydance offer. I don't know what that means for that, but that's what I'm seeing here. Now Netflix, let's see here. They dropped because of that. It says regulators will see our deal for Warner Brothers as pro-consumer, says Netflix. Okay. We'll see what happens with that. That could have been a buy on Netflix. I don't know. Amazon is in the news with OpenAI. I think they're going to invest $10 billion or some kind of partner, something like that. Broadcom's been slaughtered, up 0.50. Now let's go to some laggards here. Who's lagging today? Well, Nvidia is just battling the 175. I think it's bottomed out at 175. Needs to take back 177. It's trying to do that now. All right, trying to do it now. All right. Let's go Tesla. Tesla's been having a nice little run here. Ooh, Tesla almost hit its expected move to the upside. That would be 494.12. So caution on longs on Tesla. Market's getting some bids here, getting bought up here, right out of a demand zone. We'll go into it in a little bit. All right, so that's what's going on with Tesla. Moving on, top sectors. Here's the miners, up 1.04, ticker NEM. Chevron, Exxon, of course, crude, getting love. Who's lagging today? Oracle. Woo. Now, did Oracle have a dividend today? Let's see. Dividend on 1.9. Nope. So Oracle just continues to get slaughtered. They did a lot of capex spending for AI, so, and there's this bond stuff. I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's not looking good. Obviously, it'll be a buy eventually. All right, weed stocks. Cannabis, Tilray up 4.66. Marvell, Semi up 2.89. D-Wave, Quantum Computing up 2.31. Then you got the miner up, okay? Lagging. Lennar, Home Builder. Down 4.82%. Fortinet, Cybersecurity, down 1.92. We'll just go over the one percenters here. Nubank, down 1.67. LMT, Lockheed Martin, down 1.27. Celsius, down 1.04. And Warner Brothers, down 1.87. All right, then we get out of here. Not sure if that helps anybody. I like to see the granular stuff here. Sectors. Energy's leading the pack, up 0.89. That's been lagging. That's been sleeping. Semis up 0.36. Financials up 0.31. Technology up 0.13. There's no lagging sector this morning, folks. No lagging sector. All right, let's move on to the economic calendar. Now, that's changed. Like I said, if I'm not going nuts, this looks like it changed on me. This thing was not like this yesterday. So let's get into it. All right. Yesterday, unemployment went up 0.2. Okay, unemployment went up. We added some jobs. All right, 30-year mortgage rate. All right. Previous 6.33, actual 6.38. That is because of your 10-year yield. Mortgage rates and 10-year yield are kind of go hand in hand. Really not the Fed cut. It's more about 10-year yield. Yes, cuts can happen, but the 10-year yield goes up. That's really gonna go lock and step with mortgage rates. All right. Now, Fed Waller speaking now. He's speaking now. All right. Fed Williams at 9:05. There's not much. Fed Bostic at 12:30. And tomorrow's CPI now. Let's see. Looks like we're expecting 3%. Oh, I'm sorry. 3%. Oh, 3% core, 3% headline. Interesting. All right. Look at the juice now. Is Trump on everything in the docket? I don't see anything. Let's look what it says here. U.S. stocks rose, signaling the first gain in 4 days for the S&P 500 as risk appetite returned following last week's pullback in technology shares. Trump's oil blockade on Venezuela pushed crude prices more than 2% higher. There you go. Oracle's $10 billion Michigan data center in limbo after Blue Owl funding talks stall. There you go. That's the weakness in Oracle. Fed Waller, let's see if there's any reds here. He's talking, but I don't see reds. But I did see when he said, I don't know what it came out. He said something about AI in the job market, and then I saw the market kind of take back. Doesn't matter. That's what he said. He doesn't know how AI is going to affect the job market. All right. Stock news. Let's see if we get something here. We'd like to get a little summary here. Sometimes they give it to you, sometimes they don't. Doesn't look like we're getting it. I just told you about Oracle. Okay. We're going to move on. Here we go. Warner Brothers likely to reject $108.4 billion Paramount bid. Back Netflix in bidding war. Okay. Amazon in talks to invest about $10 billion in OpenAI. Let's see. Fed liquidity measures calm year-end funding jitters. U.S. bond market is heading into the year-end with less anxiety than usual. Ford cancels EV battery deal worth $6.5 billion with South Korea's LG Energy Solution. Waymo in talks to raise billions over $100 billion valuation. The information reports. Okay. Let's see here. U.S. stock index futures inched higher as investors awaited more economic data to gauge the path of monetary policy and monitored geopolitical tensions in Venezuela to send oil prices higher. Crude futures rallied after the U.S. President Donald Trump ordered a total and complete blockade of all sanctioned oil tankers entering and leaving Venezuela. There you go. All right. Now, China and Hong Kong stocks. Remember I talked about this yesterday? Meanwhile, snapped a 2-day slide led by gains in artificial intelligence shares. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. Inflation data for clues on Federal Reserve's next move among precious metals. Silver surged to record highs. Okay. Let's look at more. Let's see. If I didn't mention something, I'll talk about it. If not, we move on. Looks like Robinhood, the company, will allow customers to wager on the individual performances of professional football players as part of a new batch of sports-focused event contracts the online brokers rolled out on Tuesday. Interesting. That's a big, those event contracts, very big. I know that Kalshi and Polymarket also have that. Let's see, Celsius Holdings, Piper Sandler cuts target price. That's why we saw weakness there. That's it. Moving on. Moving on. Let's just look at some upgrades, downgrades. Upgrades, downgrades. Let's see it. Upgrades. Let's see what we got here. Airbnb got an upgrade. Ally Bank got an upgrade. All right. Gap, upgrade. Hyatt Hotels, upgrade. Okay. Texas Roadhouse, Urban Outfitters, upgrade. Victoria's Secret, upgrade. All right. Downgrades. I just see nothing really here to talk about there. All right. Moving on. We're going to go right into my market internals recap. Keep it rolling here. And this is very important. Every day, these internals have just really kept me in check. I just love them. Bread and butter. What did we have yesterday? Oh, this marker is going to give me a pain today. All right, let me hold on a second. Let me just reset my pen. Let me reset my pen. Give me 1 second, folks. Alrighty. Let's talk about these internals, alright? Because every day, these are so key. They're so key. Now, the market flipped yesterday. Tech was your leader with consumer discretionary. So think Tesla, Amazon, think Nvidia, Apple, Microsoft. Communications, that's your Meta, your Google. Okay? That's NASDAQ basically. That's why it was relatively stronger. Now, as far as the S&P 500, because these internals are the S&P 500. I want to show you. It flipped the script yesterday. It flipped the script. NASDAQ exchange was 1 to 3.321 of volume going to up stocks versus down stocks. Okay? Now you see, flipped it. It was 2 to 1 negative. Now, what does that mean? Well, 35% is tech. 10% is discretionary. That's 45. 55% of your market cap was positive. You're not going to go much. You're not going to go lower. It's just going to have a problem. Okay? It's going to have a problem. Now, your ADDs, negative 234 makes a little sense. That's not crazy bearish. It's not bullish. And the NASDAQ 100 was kind of in parity. Okay? So, it just was the same as the other day. The overall market was weak. Overall market was not weak. Yes, the prior day. But tech was weak. This just flips the script. Okay, so you can see these bars. and you see the equal weight, which represents overall market, right, was weaker. But usually this is not very bearish. When the overall market and the market cap stronger, it's not very bearish. Okay? But it was a very wild day. I mean, it was just like up, down, down, up, down, up. It was a wild day. I don't have my gamma levels on here, but trust me, that's why I'm scalping a little bit. Those gamma levels were in sync with each other, meaning gamma levels for Qs, SPX, and SPY were all together. And when you see them, I should have recorded it. That's when you got these like shotgun-like moves off price. It was literally like bouncing. As soon as you took out those levels, bouncing. That's just market makers and dealers dynamically hedging. Pretty awesome. I haven't got to seeing that in a while because I love my this is pretty much triple gamma flip points. They work like magic. It is really something. I should have recorded it yesterday, but I didn't. All right. Now, moving on. Dailies. Dailies. Let's see. SPY. Let's do it. Let's do this chart. All right. Let's see what we got here. Let's see what we got going. All right. Now, we can see basically this hit the 50-day moving average. Right after that happened, I said this could be the temporary bottom. Hence why I put my long on. But like I said, it was so whippy. I was like, I think even though right now, I think I gotta wait. I gotta wait. I don't want to wait, but this could be a bottom. Okay, took out these two prior lows. Look at that. You even kind of almost feel the gap here. Ugh, the algos kick in. You held the 50. Where are we now? 680.20. We are right there. And the upper third of the portion. There's Friday's close, that little black line. Okay. And whenever you have this 9 EMA daily kind of flattening out to 20, you know we're in this kind of no man's zone. Over the last 20 days, it's kind of flat. The 50 days up trending up a little bit. But this is kind of telling you we're just kind of figuring out what we're going to do. I like to call this the mouth. The mouth. I know if my boy Documents, MPH, Leo, 8 is watching, he knows what I'm talking about. All right. Let's look at those futures. Let's look at those futures. Yeah. So, futures wise, okay? Futures wise, you swept these lows, right here. Whoop. Now we're at the 20. We're at the 50 day. We're at last week's lows. A lot of confluence there, folks. A lot of confluence. A lot of confluence. So, let's see what we could do today. I don't know. This market seems like more of a scalper's paradise to me yesterday. Is this a temporary bottom? I don't know. Moving on to the Qs. Let's look at those Qs together. All right, what do we have in the Qs? So the Qs, look what it did. Prior day, closed below the 50. Look where resistance was. Friday's, now this is confluence, everybody. There's the 20 day, the 50 day, and the Friday's close. That was the high. That was the high. We need to get over that and close above that to get a rally into Santa Claus time. Okay, Santa Claus rally. You have to close above this. Now, where are we now, though? 613.40. 613.40. Of course, where are we at? Right at Friday's close. Right at these moving averages. Is that a coincidence? No. No, no, no. All right, let's look at futures together. All right, so it's a mess, folks. Okay, now, could this be the bottom? Maybe. Notice what we're doing in the futures. We're below the 50. We're below the 20. We're right back into last week's range. Right? We need to cross and close above these moving averages. Okay? So, let's see. Let's see. Let's look at the breath. How stanky is that breath? Well, the breath got stankier yesterday. We went up to 62. We dropped back down to 55. 55% of stocks above the simple day moving average. This basically, like I said, tells you everything you need to know about our market. It's middling. Middling. It's middling. We were having a nice run here. And then, okay. That's where that overall weakness that I just showed you in internals. Okay. Healthcare was weak yesterday. We just have to see what happens. Tricky, tricky. Now, real quick, let's just look at the technology sector because that did have a positive day. You notice it right here. But look at the technology sector underneath last week's lows, underneath the 20, underneath the 50. It's got a lot of work to do. Okay? This is 35% of our market cap weight in the S&P 500, so it's very important. Okay? It's very important. It had a positive day yesterday. It's got a lot of work to do. Let's just see what it does. I don't know what it will do. Moving on. Hourlies. Let's look at these hourlies together. Okay. Here's our hourly charts. Now, let's look at this together. Okay. So, there's that high volume node that I said the market had to stay over. It did. Okay? It did. That could be the bottom. There's very poor structure below that. Now, the ES has some work to do. Okay? Swing high was tried to take that out, couldn't, rejected it, right? And then, right here, you ran into the anchored VWAP from these highs. Right there, that blue bar. Okay? But look, we're putting in higher lows. This is a demand zone. It just came right into, right? Now I did put a trend line here just to guide me here. That's the trend line. So we basically got to take this out. I talked about this yesterday. That's your 68. What is it? 68.90. Most traded price of the last 2 months. Okay. Need to take that out. You need to do this. Doesn't matter if it does this to do this. Okay. But that's some nice buying there, right at last week's lows. You needed a pullback here. Okay. Let's see what we do. Okay. Now I did throw anchor VWAP from this low. It's right here. So that will just tell me where buyers, the average buyer is there. All right. So they're above it, so we know buyers are in control. But look, we hit these highs anchored VWAP right there to the tick. These anchored VWAPs are something else, right? Look at that. Look at that anchored VWAP. Just couldn't get over it. Pretty cool stuff. Okay. Month-to-date anchor VWAP is up here. So if the month-to-date anchor VWAP is red on my chart, I know sellers are in control of the month. Okay. Sellers are in control of the month. The week-to-date VWAP is green, and it's for the week. Buyers are now in control. That's just how I use those. Okay. So let's see what happens here. All right. Now, move over to the NASDAQ. NASDAQ time. All right. We could zoom in. I could have zoomed in earlier, but let's just do this here. All right. So Nasdaq was relatively stronger. That probably should have been my swing long yesterday. That should have been my swing long, because even if I got see this demand zone was respected, right? I should have in here with the discount on the pullback, my stop would have been here. So even if I got in somewhere here, I would have had a 100-point risk on it. My stop would have been down here. That was probably the better play in retrospect, because I would still be in it, right? My stop would be here. I would have probably moved it to here, maybe even to here now, and I would just be in profit and wait for that big move if I get it, right? There would be no risk now. I'd actually be in profit. But whatever. We broke a trend, so that's gone. We broke that trend. We broke it right here. Then a little retracement, and we moved up. Okay, so that trend line's gone. Now, if we look at anchor VWAPs, okay, I didn't put one on from here. Let's see. Honestly, let's see. Let's put it on. So I'm going to put it on from this candle. Oh, look at that. Interesting. I have a little template here. Let's see where that anchored VWAP is. Interesting. It ran into it. It ran into it. All right. That just shows me we're sellers right here. All right. We ran into it here. Battling it again. Okay. In this demand zone. Okay. Now I have an anchored VWAP from this low. That's acted as support. Okay. Anchor VWAP for the month, red, so sellers are in control of the month. Anchor VWAP for the week is green, so sellers our buyers are in control for the week. Now, very important level, 254. 254. You have last week's lows. You have the most traded price of the week. You have a demand zone here. You can see we're getting right back up. All right, what we needed to do yesterday was really take out this swing high. We did it, but that was kind of like a sweep of liquidity here, right? And then we pulled back, and then we finally closed above it. So now you can see making higher lows. Next target would be here around 25650s. Not the best structure in this candle. So we could do one of these, and then off to Santa Claus. Don't know. Don't know. Okay? So I just gave you the key levels. We're in a supply here that you can see it had problems with it right here. As soon as it got in there, some selling ensued. Then this demand is getting bought up. All right, so that's your NASDAQ futures. Okay, moving on to the market profile, volume profile now. Let's get over to our ES. Okay, let's look at this together. Okay, let's mark out some levels here. So, first thing I'm noticing, we have a very good level here, a confluence high, 6882s right here. This is pretty interesting, right? This makes sense why we pulled back so violently. The most traded price of the night was right here, overnight, and you can see it's a 24-hour high most traded price of the week. A lot of longs there. Now they're getting liquidated a little bit. Okay. Now, you have a poor high here. You have a poor high. Okay? So, what does that mean? We have an incomplete we have incomplete structure to the upside. Okay? It's called an incomplete auction in market profile. Okay? So generally that means that has to be corrected. Okay? In ICT, you might call that like an equal high. Okay? So, how do we look at that, right? And I'll just break it out because all it is a 30-minute bars that have a double top right there. See that poor high? That auction is not complete. Okay? So the first thing usually with a poor high is these are longs that had poor trade location, right? You get long there, you got the sucker long. They get stuck, right? You have this run up, you do a symmetric pullback, you get bought up here in demand. Next move is to correct it. Put a tail in the profile. Okay? I'm hoping we get down here so I can get a long. Don't know if we will. All right? So let's just mark out some levels. So right here, we have supply. All right, and I'm going to say right there. That's a level. Now I want to if you've been watching me, this is stacked demand here. And what that tells me is I don't want to short into these demand zones. That's just making me go, okay, I know these are major demand zones. These should not be easy going for a short into them. Now, if some catalyst comes out, something that, breaks technicals, that's different. Okay? What that tells me is I want to be long unless something changes. Okay? So look at all those demands. I don't have to make boxes. You can see them there. You can clearly see them. Now, at the end of the demand, what do you have? I'm going to put a box here. That low could be the swing low, like I said. My stop would have been down all the way here, 6,800. That's where my stop would have been. My entry was 68.40, so I would have been in profit. Okay. But look, it came all the way back to my entry in the overnights and broke it. Even if I had a break even, I would have been stopped out. Doesn't matter. I'm not in it now. Okay. This is the poor structure. This little void underneath this. This is not good if you break this. But now you have this stacked demand. You have this incomplete structure. I don't know what that jolt was, but we could break this high now. I don't know what that was. Something just came out. 859. You guys want me to look at this? Let's see. Let's do that. Let's just real quick. Let me see if there's a news event that came out here. Let's see here. This guy ain't friggin' updating. What the hell's that about? All right, let's try this news feed. All right, let's see what just moved our market. Fed's Waller, amid a bifurcated economy, the Fed has to act with one blunt policy tool. The U.S. has agreed to modify some tariff rates on certain goods with the expectation that the trade deal will be successfully negotiated Q1 2026. U.S. will reconsider modification of certain rates if a deal is not done by March 31st. Notice on Switzerland towers. Modifications are effective November 14th, 2025. Federal Register, Fed Waller. Business fixed investment without AI is declining. Business fixed investment without AI is declining. Looks like crash. Um, let's go back to the charts there. Co. Let's go back to these charts. All right, so we didn't break that high. I like that. All right, we didn't break that high. Now, what else do we have here? We have ultimate balance. Okay. And we have this equal highs up here, 69.32s. These confluence highs. Another breakout level. All right. So, we need to break above that 68.90 and hold it. You really need to do that. Okay. Really need to do that. So, let's break it out. And if this market, because remember, it's rollover week, quad witching is Friday. People are rolling over their positions from the December contract to the March contract. Everybody rolls it over at a different time. It can cause some weirdness in markets. Okay? And for right now, this high looks like it wants to get broken. I hope I get a chance to break it with the market. Otherwise, we'll see. Okay? Let's get right into scenarios now. And let's go with the bull case. Are we going to get a day where all sectors work together? I don't know. Right? That's when the markets make the best moves. Okay? All right. So, doesn't take a rocket science to see my stack demands here. The thicker the lines, the bigger. Remember, these are at least 6, 8, 12-hour demand zones. We just came into this demand zone, which is not a thick line, but it actually went into the thick line. There you go. All right. You all know this is an incomplete auction. What I would like to see, I won't want to break that yet. I would love the pullback into this demand zone again. Maybe to right here around the 68.59. But remember, this is anywhere in here. And if I get liftoff and maybe a higher low at the last week's lows, then we're going to go to target the break. You target the break at auction, and I would think we get up to at least the most traded price of the week. This could really run. Okay? It could really run. If you break and hold this, you're going to break this session's high, this overnight highs. Okay? Now, I don't want this to break. It might break right while I'm talking. All right? It's begging to be broken. Okay? Now, anywhere in here, if I see internals that are not very weak, I'm going to look to buy anywhere in here. Anywhere in here. And I might set my swing position up again, possibly. If I get some discount in here, I might put my stop here or even down to the psychological 6,800 number. Okay? Remember, I don't want the market to accept price below this high volume node and this swing low now. Yesterday's lows. Poor structure below. Hold this, it's bullish. Okay? And if you look at Nvidia, it's bottoming out. Microsoft's bottoming out. Okay? Same with Apple. Remember, they've been pulling back. Anything can happen. Nobody knows. Okay? Nobody knows. That's my longs. Okay? I really would like a pullback. I think a tougher trade would be if we do push into here, ultimate balance. See, there's a big demand supply zone here. Longs would be tough. That's why I'm not really putting that in there. All right, moving on to shorts. Now in the ES, shorts are still kind of in control a little bit. This 68.90s has not been taken out. So what could happen is push up, break that, right? But then you get a wick back into the range, yesterday's range. You get a lower high. Now we can start cooking. right? But you have all of this demand. This is where I would say caution a short, right? Caution. Market generated information to me, though, if you start working through these demand zones, that is very bearish. Okay, if the internals are like, these are all pullback buy points, but I have to go with this bearish scenario. If you take out yesterday's most traded price, probably going to test the overnight lows at least. Now, overnight lows, you're going to test that high volume composite node, 68.25. There's yesterday's lows. It's really what I care about. Even if we take them out and we rip back up above here, put a higher low in, that could be the buy. However, if we find acceptance down here, this is not good. Poor structure all the way down to 67.70. Again, do I know? No, I don't. Honestly, that's probably all I'm interested in. Now, NASDAQ. Let's look at this NASDAQ together. Okay? NASDAQ, look at this. It's a different story, right? Different chart here. Remember, it's relatively strong this morning, relatively strong yesterday. Is this the swing low? I don't know. 25073s. Look, higher low, higher low, higher low. It took out this, which was key. Took out that, which was key. Okay? Now, this profile has a tail, but it went into this major supply. Caught some selling there. Okay? Now, this is the most traded price of the week, the 254s. We want to maintain that. This is last week's lows. Okay? So you can see there's demands all over the place in the NASDAQ. I'm sorry, not this one. These are very big demand zones, very important ones. Okay? If the market takes them out swiftly, that means bears are in control. That's how I look at them. Oh, that's a major demand. Let me see how the market reacts when it goes in there. Okay, we already know this got supported. Okay, so what am I looking for here? Okay, we know we got supply, so we got a supply and a larger supply here. We already know we've had problems right off the bat, but there's been a structure shift here. You broke this high. Okay, is tech going to get a bid, catch a bid more? I don't know. Okay, but what I do know is in this area with those demands, I'm just saying specifically here, I like it for pullbacks. And we have all of this demand. I mean, honestly, this is a major demand zone. You don't want to fall below the 250s. This composite high volume node from the past and this swing low. Poor structure below. You don't have demand until about 248s. Okay? So, let's break it out. And let's just talk about this scenarios now. So here we go. We already pulled back to where I wanted to. You know, some days I'm like, man, that'd be a nice long here. But hoping when the market opens, it gives us this. All right, so let's get into scenarios here. Remember, I'm trying to, now yesterday I scalped, but then I was trying to get in the long move, which would still be right now. That's what I'm trying to do lately because of how I speak to you with these scenarios. And I have a lot of conviction. I'm trying to put trades on that express that, right? Instead of being in something that could get stopped out in a 5-minute candle. So you're going to see more of those types of trades from me. Because I'm honestly tired of like making these scenarios and they play out to the T. And then I'm just sitting here going, oh, I'm almost kind of in a day trade, trying to look for a day trade. But the story still happens. So that's what I want to do. All right, so let's get into this again. All right, where are you going to start with the bull side? The bulls, right? Tech's been lagging. Now let's see if it catches a bid. All right. So we came into this supply zone. Now above right here, there is single prints. So I know this supply. Let me actually put that on the chart. I know that these single prints, you have a supply. Now I understand that, right? I understand. However, this is poor structure. It's not a lot of volume here. Okay. I know if we chop in there and the market really picks up steam, you can clear this up. But I also understand it's a supply. But it's not as strong because that's why I'm putting that single prints there. Okay. So that being said, give me this pullback right into the 254 is the most traded price of the week, to the demand, right? To last week's lows, to the close, whatever you want to give me. That's today's most traded price, whatever. You make a higher low, and I think we break the overnight highs. And then it's into single prints. And this is where your telltale sign is. If you get resistance, you know it's supply, but there's single prints. If the market starts ripping, guess what, folks? We're going right to those 25670s. And guess what's above that? Single prints. This could really run up to the most traded price of the month. That price is 25853s, 25853s. Okay? This just clears out everything, and it's Santa Claus, Rudolph is coming. Again, stack demands. Okay? Stack demands. So anywhere in here, okay? Now, if the market comes all the way down here, I'm going to be cautious. I would probably want to see some kind of knife in the ground here and then a rip back up and then a higher low to maybe make me think, okay, we just shook out all the shorts. All right? Shorts. Let's talk about those shorts. Well, we know we have a supply zone here, right? Okay. But the stacked demand down here makes me cautious, just like in the ES. Doesn't mean it can't be taken out. We are having trouble with this little supply zone here. So, what could happen? Well, jump up in, hit the overnight highs, get rejected, put a lower high in. Now we have this most traded price. If we go back under here, we should take out. If we go through here, now there's a big demand zone. Now this is where it gets a little shaky. This is why my shorts I'd be nervous with. Okay, now the market has to be really weak to roll through this. If we do, though, most traded price yesterday, we hit the overnight lows, 25265s. If you take that out, continued weakness, right? And you see the major players, Nvidia, Apple, Microsoft selling off, I would say caution. If you rip through that demand like it was nothing, I would say have some caution. You're going to go to yesterday's lows. Okay? Still major demand here. And like I said, if you cut through this and you find acceptance below that high volume node, like this, and the market's just weakening and weakening, you're going down, folks. 248 is the next demand zone. Okay? Do I have a lot of confidence in this? No. Nope. Unless I see something internals that are going, uh-oh. Uh-oh. All right? I don't have a lot of confidence. I just don't. Okay? That's it, folks. That is my scenarios for today. Smash the like button if you enjoyed that analysis. All right? Now, hopefully, you join me every morning. Subscribe, get that alert, give you the market story. I give you a bunch of technical analysis. Then I just gave you the long and short trade scenarios in the Nasdaq and the ES futures. All right, if you want to get more granular, a more minute-to-minute commentary, you're going to join my Discord. That's Confluence Trading. Go to the YouTube homepage, click on the link, and sign up. What are you waiting for? Let me be your indicator. You can also get my weekly expected move indicator. I run it via Python every Monday morning, and I share it with you. 70% of stocks, all in that list, all in that indicator. all important ones, show you the expected moves to the upside, to the downside. 70% of the time, they fall within that range. So if any stock's hitting the expected move to the upside, think, well, what's the possibility that this just runs higher? Probably not very high. Okay, probably not very high. Okay, so that's it for me, folks. Now, if you want to come see me in my Discord, come join. All right, come join. I welcome you. Ask a lot of questions if you like. If not, come back here tomorrow morning. All right. Everybody have a great day. Stay green. Remember, no trades to trade. I'll see you guys later.